On stage now at the Guthrie Theater, the Scottsboro Boys dramatizes the story of the real-life Scottsboro Boys, a group of 9 black youth falsely accused and convicted of rape on a train passing through Scottsboro, Alabama in 1931. Set as a minstrel show by the legendary musical theater duo John Kander and Fred Ebb, the show continues their exploration of the moral quandaries of humanity, an example of one of the greatest miscarriages of American justice.
We're gonna get a trial, then we're going home. They ain't gonna give us no trial. They're gonna hang us, just like they hanged my cousin.
The Scottsboro Boys offers to audiences that which the real Scottsboro Boys never had in life: the truth.
This time, can we tell the truth? Of course, they would. Have you ever told the truth before, Mr. Campbell? Is that what we're doing? Yes. No, I've never done this before. Sing along or tell us a joke. If you want to, that's all right. Hey, 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 join in the merriment.
We sat down recently with Joshua David Henry, who portrays Haywood Patterson, the show's main protagonist.
Haywood Patterson, how did you prepare to play Haywood Patterson? It's the Scottsboro Boys, but in this space, in the time of the show, Haywood really gets the most humanization and personification. Tell me a little bit about Haywood, how you prepared to play him, and maybe what you learned along the way.
Well, I read his book, Scottsboro Boy, and I learned a lot about how he was a very strong, confident individual.
I'm all over the states. Southeast to Georgia, down to Pensacola, north to Knoxville, west to Arkansas, and straight on to Shreveport. I know the freight schedules, when the trains leave, when they arrive. I can like a butt in the wind on top of a moving boxcar.
At that time, didn't always necessarily serve a black man that well, where he was in the South in 1931. I found that a lot of things that Haywood believed in were a lot of things that I believed in. He grew up in a religious household, and he was taught the importance of the truth and to maintain that despite circumstances, despite anything else, that was of the utmost importance. And I was really inspired by that. And as you see, it didn't always, at times it would help, it would have served him better to not told the truth or not stuck to it as concretely as he did. When I started reading his book, I was like, I felt so connected to that aspect of him. Also, if you research Haywood Patterson and the Scottsboro Boys, he was the one who most exemplified what a lot of people, a lot of white people at that time were afraid of. He wasn't afraid of speaking up. He was very confident. He was very aware of his rights as a human. Things that were going on at that time racially were not appropriate. He knew about that he deserved his independence and he demanded it. Even in the face of people that were locking him up, he would talk back to the guards, and he would. There's one section of his book that talks about when he was just being locked up with the other 8 boys. The crowds were lining up on either side of him, and they were like, "We gotta lynch those people. We gotta lynch them." And he yelled out, "You're not gonna do a goddamn thing. You're not gonna do anything." In chains with guns pointing at him. So when I saw that, I realized this is not your pushover guy, and I try to use that.
In some ways, for that time and that place, Alabama, at that time and place, the fact that this case ultimately made it to the Supreme Court is noteworthy, but the fact that it actually made it to a courthouse at all in that time and place is somewhat noteworthy. In that you're right, there were lynch crowds from the get-go.
They were ready to, they were ready to lynch them up right there. Within moments of them getting convicted, the crowds were ready to just do away with them. Fortunately, that didn't happen, and there were, but the whole trial happened very quickly. They were all sentenced within, I think it was a week and a half. All 9 boys were sentenced to either 75 years in prison or electric chair right on the spot. So they were fortunate to even get to that point. But even considering that, it all happened very, very quickly.
There's a device in the show where one of the characters lifts the sheriff's badge and holds it up as a totem and says, "Ah, I've got justice."
Yeah. And
I
believe it's Willie Robeson. Yeah. That's really chilling to me. That just the star, he felt like he'd accomplished so much. He had justice in the midst of that dark prison cell with thousands of people outside waiting to lynch him. I love that they give him that line. And Kendrick owns it so well.
And how do the other of the 9 Scottsboro boys, or the other 8, how do they react to this concept of that you can have justice just in your hand? This is a symbol of it.
Well, I think where we are on stage, I'm looking out, so I don't actually see what's happening, but I feel like they all look at him and with this disbelief. Like, what the hell are you talking about? Justice? This is justice? We just had guns in our faces and the guards were right outside ready to do away with us. And so it's a very, very chilling, kind of spine-tingling moment. And the audience reacts in a way that's, I feel like many moments in the show, they don't know how to react to that. Sometimes you hear laughs, sometimes you hear, half laughs into gasps. They're like, well, he really feels like he has, for the first time in his life, justice, and he's about to die.
Right. The naivete that he could hold justice in his hand, and even more so that in that time, in that place, he's actually going to get justice.
Yeah.
And what is interesting, and I'll have to go back and watch the show again, but I believe that star kind of shows up here and again, and then it just sort of disappears and doesn't show up again. It's just forgotten.
Susan Stroman.
Susan
Stroman magic. Yes. Yeah, we follow that justice throughout. Like you said, Willie Robeson steals it, and then when it's time to be sentenced, we're all in that semicircle there, and I believe it's Bones comes back and says, "What happened to my badge? What happened to justice?" And he lost his badge. And what happened, it's a lot of levels in that moment as well. So
in the play, the totem of justice just sort of gets lost, disappears, is forgotten about.
Yes.
And largely for the 9 Scottsboro boys, I mean, they were a cause célèbre for some time, but ultimately none of them really, did any of them get justice?
I wouldn't say justice. No. Interestingly enough, later on in the piece, Haywood also says the same thing. He grabs the badge, and this is after a moment of them realizing that they can finally get a second trial. They can get a second trial after being convicted to go to the electric chair. And he says, "I got the star. I got justice." And Haywood's a smart guy. So he knows this is a moment of just celebration for just a second chance. A second attempt to get justice. So that's another way we follow that star. But back to what you were saying, it's the whole theme of justice and the star is something that's followed through, and it kind of disappears. And where did it go? At the end, the 9 boys did not get justice at all. Haywood, after 21 years in prison. He died there. Clarence Norris, who was the last one out, I think he got released in, I'm not sure of the year, but after many, many years in jail. And there's a clip that's on this amazing PBS special that shows him just crying.
The American Experience?
The American Experience,
yeah,
exactly.
I watched that.
The last clip is him just moments after he's released, shedding a tear and saying, you know, I wish these other 8 boys could have seen this.
Ironically, pardoned by George Wallace.
Yes.
Who there's a laugh line in the show.
That's just, it's...
We won't spoil it for those
Sure,
of you who
sure.
haven't seen it, but there's a George Wallace laugh line in the show.